great. I have to say, when I was thinking about this, I was like, okay, well, some people were like, then I'll do for an update, and I was like, oh, maybe there'll be like 15, 20 people that'll come. So I was clearly wrong on that. And then I should have known, because last week the staff asked me, at town hall we need to be like, do you want us to come? And I'm like, I don't think so. That would be really fun. Like, to have staff. They have a lot of it, and then it's who do you bring? Because there's just so many of them. So staff tends to come to Union Bay on very topic-specific things, and you'll hear about a couple of things that are coming up and events that you'll be able to participate in. So I'm Lynn Arbour. I've been your rep at the regional district for the last, I guess, 6 years now. And it's been a lot of fun. It's also been a lot of challenges, especially in relation to managing services around here. Union Bay and Royston especially. When I look at the other communities, Fanny Bay, Hornby, and then it's a little bit quieter. And the rest of the regional district, it's a little bit quieter. But these communities actually have a lot, and they take a lot of our attention in the regional district. I want to acknowledge that we are meeting here tonight on the traditional territory of the Comox First Nation, and they'll come up a number of times in my updates tonight. They're a partner and also the right holders to all the lands around here, and it's not a huge nation in terms of amount of people, but in terms of opportunity and where they're at in the treaty process, they also have a tremendous amount of things happening right now. And a lot of them, as you know, is with an eye for the treaty lands in the south around here. So the format for tonight is pretty simple. I got a long list of topics, and what I'm trying to do is just provide you with some fresh updates on each topics. And I'm hoping for about half an hour of just me going through the different issues. And after that, we'll open it up for 1 hour or until my brain shuts down, like first one there, right? So, and it's a lot of people, so we'll just try to keep it orderly and know that if you have a question and you don't want to ask it in front of the group, or you can always follow up, and I'll do my best to answer it, and otherwise we can connect you with staff at the regional district if you have something more specific. But hopefully we'll cover a lot of our information. So the reason for this update, I did one actually quite a while ago. I was thinking it's probably a couple of years out now since I did something similar to this, and I think it's opportune because not only there's a lot of good news, but there's also some really some significant challenges, I would say, that are before us in the community here. So thanks to Margaret, I have a piece of paper, and I can just go through the list. So I'll start with a topic that was on Facebook today, and that's the fire hall. And so we'll start with that update, and we have, I won't put Ian Ham, he's here somewhere, I can see him, but we won't put him on the hot seat. But if you have questions, there will be an event dedicated to the fire hall on November 28th at the hall, and all of our key staff is going to be here. But I'll still give you the update on the fire hall. The fire hall, for those who are new to Union Bay, including myself, it's an old issue in the community. And it's been, the need for replacement. The current fire hall was built, I think, in 1956. And it's just down the road here. It's very small. It's been really well maintained by the fire crew and department. But it's really, it's not seismically safe. It's not to code. It's got all these issues, and it's small. It's at closer to end of life than beginning of life, being basically 68 years old. So the planning for the fire hall started a long time ago, and I think the early 2000s, from what I can gather in the literature, but some people might know better. Maybe there were discussions prior to that. Around 2009, there was a big effort to try to build a fire hall under the improvement district, and it went to AAP, which is the one we're going to do this year, in the coming year. And the AAP failed at the time, and there was a lot of issues. They were looking at the school site as one of the options, and anyways, it led to a lot of community tension around trying to get that fire hall built. In the late 2010s, there was a renewed effort to get going, and I know the folks at the Improvement District had a look again, and all throughout, one unfortunately that arose is as part of the Master Development Agreement with Union Bay Estates, it was negotiated that as part of the plan development, they would identify land for the fire hall that they would turn over at the time to the Improvement District, and along with the services, basically a service lot. When the Improvement District folded into the Regional District in 2021, there was a committee that was trying to get going on the fire hall, and they were looking at what Cumberland was doing, so there was actually a good base for discussion. And the last couple of years, our staff at the Regional District, our fire department, has been working with Union Bay Fire Department to try to get this moving. So what you'll see on November 28th is we now have design and Class D estimates on the fire hall. And it's some of the drivers for the fire hall was like functionality, but also cost, because cost has gone up in everything. So the estimate that was initially there was going to be a $4 million bill when we first started talking about it a couple years ago. And now we got the Class D estimates recently, and it's up to $6.2 million or something like that. So kind of intimidating figure. Without grants, you'd be looking at $350, maybe $400 per home per year. So the good news part, in last year I helped with that. There's a longer story on our side, but you didn't used to be able to use provincial and federal grants for fire halls. It was just not allowed. And there was a huge lobby. I was part of it across the province and across the country to say we need eligibility of fire halls for those infrastructure cuts of money. And finally, in 2021, one pot of money opened up, and we were able to dedicate, I think, $1.1 million towards the build here of that grant, and that was confirmed last year. And then the timing of this is perfect, because this week I asked last meeting to see if we could actually attribute more of that grant to the fire hall here. And on Monday, 2 days ago, I was able to get the committee to agree to put $600,000 additional. And then, to my huge surprise, last night at the board, my colleagues from area B and C, so that's Black Creek and Merville and all that area, because they realized that Union Bay is under a lot of tax pressure, they decided to dedicate $600,000 of their own money towards it. So I really want to give huge acknowledgement to Director Edwin Grape and Director Richard Hardy for doing that. I was stunned at the board last night. So altogether, we have now $2.3 million of grants to lessen the blow. And I guess the next step is we'll have that open house on November 28th. So please come, ask all the questions you want. The fire department has put a lot of time to talk, the last couple of years, looking at designs, all those things. And I personally think it's a really good product that they've come up with. It would have a small gym that would have some community use. It has a place for the old fire engine from 1935. Not a lot of space, but yeah, the display room, and then the 4 bays. And so that's the update on the fire hall. The next step is that open house, and then in January it will go to the AAP, which is the alternate approval process. The alternate approval process is if no more than 10% of residents send a form against the proposal, then it goes ahead. Then we can go to the bank and get our own. I will tell the community that if by chance the AP didn't pass or anything like that, tonight I would say I would really push to go to a full referendum. So some people may ask, why don't you go to referendum now? It's just a lot more expensive and a lot more time consuming. A referendum might be like 40 to 60,000. An AP process, we're going to piggyback on a bigger regional AP process, so it'll be probably like $4,000 or $5,000. So we'll try that. our staff will be there to answer all the questions about all the details at the end of the webinar. So I realize I spent a bit of time on this one, but it's a great project. Union Bay Estates is a vast topic covering many dimensions. I'll start with the obvious. I think people, the community is informed that they've run into some financing difficulties the last number of months. And both our staff, they continue to work, they continue to work with CVRD staff. I think they come up in a couple of weeks and meet with engineering and planning. But they have, some serious financing issues, and they're working to resolve them. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how that's going. I've talked to them a few times over the last number of months. They remain optimistic, but they have to basically refinance or possibly have to give up. Like at end of November, one of the lenders basically looking for them to put it up for sale. So there's a lot of negotiations happening. But what I would tell the community is, this project is quite advanced. It's a lot of the boxes in terms of the master development agreement and are ticked. The big one that really I think probably I don't want to put the scare into the words in the mouth of the people, but probably the big one is they have a huge commitment to South Sewer, and they're multi-million dollar commitment, and I think that's where for them to realize that potential, that will need to get resolved, because they're supposed to come up with a very significant contribution. So that's a scoop. We'll see how it goes. Sometimes those projects, they might find new investors tomorrow, and sometimes they go away for 10 years. So for us, it's how to manage that uncertainty, because in relation to South Sewer, we're still trying to advance the project to a place where it can happen. But without their participation, I would say to the community, it's unlikely that we would be able to bring the bike all the way to Union Bay. Because a lot of the contribution, there's a long section, as you can imagine, between Royston and here, and a lot of their contribution was going to go to that long pipe. So this is a slow-moving drama, and my next update will be in a number of months once we have way more information around this. But just know we're not giving up, and but it's definitely a challenge and a trial. In the meantime, though, like one of the successes from the Union Bay Estates, they still haven't built a house, but just the last number of months, we just got the Union Bay Nature Park that was transferred over to the regional district, and that's 100 acres. Started right behind here, and with looping trails, so all of Hart Creek is now a nature park, and so that's not going to go back. The community has earned this one, and I think it's a really positive thing. So I've touched on South Sewer. If there's questions about that, bring them. I'll stay around this area. We'll move to now a bunch of different disparate topics. First of all, I don't know about you, but I'm really excited. The Union Bay Community Club is working towards a new playground in the back, and we were able to secure some funding for that. They were inspired by the partnership between Fen Bay and the regional district, and so that's very much in the work. I know the committee is going to have, so the way it works is the regional district is just turning the money over to UBCC, to the community club, and they're doing the project. I got a little update, and I'm told they will have more information at the AGM. They're going to do a little presentation, but I'm really excited about that project. There's also gearing up for maybe in a couple of years. We have a delegation from Craig Darroch area. They're also interested in the playground, so that early stage planning is already underway. Favorite topic, not shipbreaking, is the next one on the list. I'm just going down the list. Shipbreaking, I just want to provide you with good information on that one, and I'm so tired of repeating myself because I rarely have updates, and it's been super frustrating. I just want to clarify some things, like how the whole issue arises from a regional district perspective. Like, people have to know that on the environmental front, that's province, that's federal. We don't have any authority as local government to look after the environmental impacts or anything like that. For us, it's purely a zoning issue. And I visited the site in 2020 and 2021, and I can assure you that our staff early on told the operator, for such a change from a log sort to this, like, you need to go through a temporary use permit or a rezoning application, and then there would be a public hearing. There would be the opportunity for everybody to weigh in, professionals, community. And then it went radio silence. And they argued that they were within our bylaw. And that's very rare that our staff gets completely ignored. So we had to, 6 months of that, and saw more barges come in, and we have to initiate legal action. At the time, our lawyer told us, oh yeah, probably within 6 months, a year, we'll be before the court. And it's now 3 years. And it's so frustrating, and I want to give huge kudos to cops. Todd has put so much effort into not only raising awareness, but bringing information to the table for all the agencies. They provided huge leadership, but they're frustrated as hell, and the spill. It's just, anyways. That's the one thing that staff said. Don't talk about that one. But you know what? Yeah, okay, it is legal, but the community needs to know this is not right, and we're not gonna stop until either. And they still have that opportunity. They could still apply for rezoning or for a temporary use permit as a good resident that tries to do big change with their land wood. And they're just. Anyways, when will be the court date? I don't know. We got an update not that long ago, and there's some hope that we'll finally get our court. But every time they've tried that, what I've learned is now there's other delays on the other side. They have a big law firm in Vancouver, and they've played just about every trick in the book. I think 2 years ago, our staff was telling us that one of our staff had to spend $200 on the requests from the other side. It was just, anyways. I'm done with that. If you have questions, I'm happy to field that. Okay, more positive. Rural grants. So there's many organizations that benefit from the rural grants, and we've changed our process. It's now October 15th. So if you missed the deadline, you can still talk to me, but usually we do them in February if you type with an organization. I really want to highlight the good work of the Historical Society tonight. They've been in partnership with us for a couple of things. They've replaced in the old post office their heat pump, so that was they used to be on gas, and we did a partnership for engagement with Comox First Nation. So the last couple of years they've actually tried to break into a relationship, and they've had meetings, and I just want to give good kudos to the Historical Society for all they do and being a great community partner. The regional solid waste management plan, I put that there, but it's kind of part of the South Shore as well. So what's happening, and Ian Munro is here, and he's been following, and Jim Elliott as well. There's a few people, community members, that have been engaged in these kind of opaque processes that go on and on and on, but it's really to try to decide how to best deal with liquid waste management. And what we benefited from in the South area, of course, is we don't have to build our own treatment plant now. We gain access to the regional sewage plant at Ladzo. And that, we wouldn't have a project without that. But now we're part of this brother regional table and trying to figure out the pathway. One of the big dilemmas that will face me, and I welcome community feedback, but on the South Shore, if everything gets resolved with Union Bay Estates, a waste management plan like that actually provides the authority to the corporation to implement a capital plan without a referendum or an AP, right? So that's a tough one, because I know this is round 3 or 4, third or fourth round on this one, but as a year or two from now, I think we'll probably meet again and do another town hall and talk about what we should do on that one. So I want to thank those who have participated in that process, because I tell you, they're tedious meetings talking about sewage and convenience. Right, Ian? Yeah. Okay, the next one I have, this one was a bit of a fight for me the last few months, because one of the themes, of course, is just tax pressure in Union Bay and Royston. And on regional recreation and parks, I lost some votes. There's 2 parts to that. One is I'm a soccer player, so I like infrastructure, but there's now capital plans for adding a 3rd rink at the arena, doubling the size of the swimming pool, and then moving forward with a $6 million artificial turf field at Vanny in the 2nd less about it the last few months. I was like, especially with the 6 million, I was like, we could have such like upgrades in our fields in this area. I got nowhere. I got voted out 9-1 on all of these votes. I know there's benefits. I know a lot of kids still go and play, a lot of adults still use the facilities, so it's not a wash, but I tried to impress that those together, the 6 million and the other one, which would be almost like $40-50 million, like it starts to be real money for everybody, right? So I'll keep you updated on that. I'm not super happy about the appetite for such high level of investment, but as my colleagues remind me, there's also a lot of needs, and all those facilities I can't disagree, they are at capacity. So I just thought for tonight is to raise that awareness, so you guys, if in 3 years from now you say they jump in the tax bill, maybe you'll remember that that's how that happened on the recreation part. ENN Railway goes right through the community here. I was chair last year. I just got off the board last month, and I've been on the board at the ENN Railway for the last 5 years. It's tough, that's another difficult topic. It's basically, right now we're doing this huge visioning process. The owners of the ENN Railway are the 5 regional districts from here all the way to Victoria, and the 14 First Nations all along here. So we're a board of 19, and that's a stakeholder. But it's been stuck for a long time. And what happened last year is the Snanahas band in Moose Bay, they got the land back. Even though they're a member of the organization, they're like, nothing's happening, we want the land back. Maybe we'll do a housing project or something, right? And they took ourselves, like, even though they're a member, they sued ourselves. and it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court gave the province and the federal government 18 months to invest, to do some move on the ENN. Otherwise, they would give the land back. The province and the feds did nothing. So now the land is reverted, and now there's 3 other nations, Squamish and Inuit, and that want their land back as well.
When's the end date?
For me?
When is the end date? In that 18 months?
Oh, no, that was last year, a year and a half ago. It's gone by. Yeah, it's gone by. So right now we don't have continuity of the whole corridor. The nations are still interested, so I don't understand how they can put so much money into, well, it's politics. Into Surrey, they're putting $6 billion to do something like 8 kilometers. The cost to restore the rail is about $1 billion for the whole island. Yeah, it might be too much, and maybe in 50 years it makes sense. So I would just like you to know that in the short term, all you'll see is that we're gonna, well, it's not me anymore, but they're gonna do some maintenance. So you're gonna see some of the brush clearing. I've put in a request to see if some of the trails can be improved. Not like brand new trails, but actually help a little bit with the connectivity, just so the communities have a little bit more amenities for them. Advocacy for future of the old school site, and Chelsea McCann is not here tonight, our school district rep, but I've had a lot of fun working with her. And the school is basically past recovery. I think I've had that question from a number of community members, and it's basically at the demolition stage. It's got asbestos, like a renovation. You might as well build it at some point. So the school district, there's been a conversation initiated now a couple of years ago with the Vancouver Island Regional Library, looking potentially for the site for library. That site, in the days of the improvement district, it had actually transferred to the improvement district, and it had to be returned because it has to be an education mandate on the property. But the library, it appears, would fit the bill. So I'll continue to advocate, and if anybody's interested in more on that, let me know. I'm happy to talk more. I think personally it could be a good use of the site here. How am I doing for time? Yeah. Another 5 minutes and just one item. I'll add a couple more. 12 is property tax trends. So that links to one I was going to add. So obviously people are concerned, and water, I'll just bring that up. I know water rates have gone up quite a bit the last 3 years, like big time. And part of that was really to start to build an asset management plan to address the old pipes and basically catch up from an infrastructure deficit perspective is probably the easiest way to put it. So that's done, okay? So there was a bump and we kind of staggered it over a couple of years, but now it's going to remain stable at about the 2%. And our expectation is that that's going to, we're good for the next 15, 20 years with that. In regards to, there's people that talk about the twinning of the, is it the DAF plant? Is that what it's called? Yeah. The DAF plant, the second DAF plant. If that happens, that's all at the cost of the developer, so it's not additional to the community. It will increase your bill. So if their development proceeds, if we resolve a sewage, you might see that happen. If it doesn't proceed, I'm not going to authorize a doubling of the plan for no reason. And so I've heard rumors that people thought that you have to pay for that. You don't. Okay, so it will either happen at the cost of the United States or it won't at all. Yeah, that's the one I was a pen driver. The other one, maybe it'll come back together. So with that, I'm really happy to open it to questions, and just raise your hand and speak with your loud voice. Otherwise, I can come to you, or I can repeat your question. And any topic is fair game. I haven't talked about 3D. That's probably the one I was going to mention. But go ahead. I see a hand already.
I'm just curious why this meeting's being recorded by an individual. Without permission, I mean, it's been moved around several times. I want permission for that to be recorded. I'd like to see it not go on.
Okay. Thanks for that comment. I don't have an issue. For me, it's a public meeting. People can take pictures.
No, but I should be.
But for yourself, I think, yeah, absolutely.
Daniel,
Yeah.
can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question is, why is the meeting being recorded?
By an individual,
Yes.
not by the CPR.
Yeah, no, I understand. So if somebody is recording the video.
Because the CBRD won't record it.
No, the CBRD won't record it. That's what we record our formal meetings.
Yeah.
But never in community. Yeah, if you have trouble, maybe let's talk, and if there's a way to, is the camera pretty much pointed at me?
Yeah, pretty well.
Okay, so,
moved 3 times.
okay. So if there's a way
Point
to,
at the public, you can't point
I-
at the public.
I understand the concern.
Sue me.
No, okay, guys. I have another question. So I got the point taken.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jim?
Yeah, I seem to recall that when UVID was around, there was a significant capital reserve fund for the fire department, the hall replacement. Yeah, it's close to $1 million, I believe. Where is that money now, and how is that going to help offset the
Yeah, that's part of what helps bring that number down. A 6 million bill with the population right here, like without, so the reserve was there, thank you, I didn't mention it from before. And then there's the additional grants for 2.3. So it's bringing, I think the debt will be, sorry, I don't have the numbers with me, but it's about 3 million in debt that we're going to take out, 3.5. So no money has disappeared. So that's the good news. And Jim, maybe that's a segue to, thank all the folks that have been at the bid over the years, and we're actually planning for that replacement. So yeah, that's a good point.
You mentioned the railway corridor
Yeah.
that they're going to be doing in Rush. I'm wondering if that includes the kids that go along the tracks because they're all plugged with vegetation and the water is going into people's property on the lower ground.
Yeah, for that one, I know in some places, like in Duncan, downtown Duncan, they manicured everything. In other places, they do a much so send me an email if you're interested in a specific area, and I'll connect it to the CEO and he'll answer your question. I don't, because they really vary their level of cut from place to place.
Because the water's meant to go towards the cloud and then drain down the cloud.
Right.
And it's not. Well, it is. So it's
Yeah, if you have a concern around that, just email me, and then I'll pass on the email to the NNO.
Yeah, just wanted to remind everyone that the water plant and the fire hall, we obtained that property for both those projects for adult comprehensive.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering about with the new fire hall, has any thought been given to simply going up to Cumberland and looking at the new fire hall that they built?
Yeah.
I'm sure that they could probably get their plans and everything else for practically nothing. So there might be a big cost saving if they were able to get in contact with them.
So that's already happened, Peter. So the question is, have you looked at Cumberland for their firewall?
Yeah.
And that's already happened as part of the process. And actually, the design is not that far off in terms of the functionalities.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, and Cumberland has, I think they have 6 bays back to back. Do I have that right, Ian? Yeah, they have 6 bays. Their build was about 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And they did it for 4.3.
Yeah.
Right? So
But they had to pay for the land.
they had to pay for everything. They got 0 grants.
Yeah.
So the cost per home is actually
We did.
quite comparable. Yeah. So yeah, I would marry them to that. Yeah.
Yeah, where did you get the figure of 100 acres for the parkland?
That-
That's what KIP puts on their website. The parkland is only a total of 54 acres.
I got
He's
it-
including the coal hill.
No, I got it from the IMAP system on CVRD.
Yeah,
website.
I just looked it up.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe, are you thinking the hectares or the acres? If you don't mind, the question is whether the park is 100 acres or 50, you think?
Yeah.
When I looked it up, I thought it was 100. So.
Well, he puts on his site that it's 100 and it's not. It's
What are the
50.
boundaries of this park?
The boundaries of this park starts right on the other side of the creek. Just try to avoid the side chatting, otherwise people won't be able to hear. So the boundaries of the park starts kind of at the water. And then there's a trail that would go, a public trail that would go on both sides. Guys, please, Mike. So the trail basically would go all around to the front and around there, come back to Hart Creek, and goes all the way to where the forest starts again at the end of the development. That'd be a public trail. But the bulk of the land is actually on this side of the bridge, right here. And it goes up, and it actually has a connection at the top of McLeod. What's that next road?
Musgrave.
Musgrave. There's actually a right-of-way that will connect through the creek to Musgrave. So it's actually a significant amount of parkland that's been gained, and we'll try to...
I got a follow-up for you.
Follow up quickly? Yeah.
The same thing, when you talk about the parkland east of the highway,
Yeah.
that hasn't, according to IMAP, that hasn't been turned over yet to the CBRD. West of the highway was turned over months and months ago.
But maybe this one is not...
It
yeah.
still says private.
Okay, so maybe that's how I ended up with a bigger acreage. Is
No,
that counted in
no,
the-
no.
Thank you, Mayor.
No,
Let's go to the new person. We have, Peter, you had a question already?
Just a quick question. I wonder who's tasked with maintaining this parkland?
So, under the agreement, I might get that number relatively wrong. It's either 15 or 25 years the developer has to maintain it,
Okay.
the trail. So they have to build it at their cost at our standard and then maintain it for 15 to 25 years. Then the residents are responsible for the park's operating budget. I'll go to the gentleman and Ashley. Yeah. Yeah, you have the hand up for that.
My question is about boundaries. I mean, you guys, Fannie Bay and Union Bay, I noticed on my taxes that I'm paying taxes for lights in Union Bay. And I was wondering, like Fannie Bay, I mean, we need stuff too, like we've got a dock and stuff like that. I was just wondering, why do you all of a sudden pay taxes in another constituency or another district? Why do I pay taxes for lights here when I should be buying stuff in Fannie Bay?
Are you in Fannie Bay?
Yeah, I'm in Fannie Bay, yeah.
Yeah, so that would be a big mistake if you're paying for lights in Union Bay.
On my taxes.
Yeah, so the question is, the gentleman said that there's lights in Union Bay, and he lives in Fannie Bay, and you feel you're paying for taxes on lights in Union Bay, but that
Right on, right?
can you send me an email, and we'll try to get that sorted out, because the only people that should pay for street lights are the people that are nearby a street light. It's basically how it works. So send me an email, and we'll make sure
I
that...
mean, that's just inside the fire department or something.
Yeah, absolutely. There is one street light in Fannie Bay near. No, it's true. On the highway, it's the smallest service in the regional district. I think we have 102 services, and this is the smallest one, and it costs like $200 a year. And it's at what's the name past the Fannie Hall? There's the one street light on the highway, the only street
Ships
light.
Point?
No, past Ships Point, past there, almost at Mudville.
Don't feel.
Yeah, it's a logging road. So, okay, I have another one. Do you mind, you can check that too if you want. Ashley, you've been patient.
I don't know why trying to use in area A get recycling and garbage when obviously this is stuff. I know you said that
Yeah.
the market area is piggybacking off of Royston,
Yeah.
but like how do we get to piggyback off Royston?
So, if people didn't hear, how come we don't have recycling and garbage in Union Bay and Fanny Bay and Black Creek and yeah, that's another one. We're talking about the firewall going on for 20 years. This is another issue that the CDRD brings back every 5 years. And every time it's been through a AAP or a referendum process. There was a referendum about 10 years ago and rural residents turned it down. We don't want a public service. Then we did this, when I started in office, they were starting to do a survey of residents, and they found that 70% in this area of Union Bay Fanny Bay wanted a public service. And the staff was so confident, they said, oh, let's go to AAP on it. And then we got 15% against, so it failed. And so it's like, and I've had lots of discussions we have lots of open houses on that topic all the time. And somehow, sometimes people just don't believe. They think we're lying or something. Because in Royston, it costs them $200 a year for garbage and pickup, a year. For garbage and pickup. Garbage and recycling pickup. Craig Darragh, when I got elected, right around the time that AEP stuff was happening, they approached us. They did a petition. So some members of Craig Darragh organized a petition, went door to door. And if you have 50% of residents in the defined area that ask for it, they get it. Okay? Then we tried to do your road, and then it got stuck. And it got stuck because your road is small, and the contractor had issues. And it's Glover, right? Or that area.
Yeah.
So now we're doing a solid waste management plan for the valley. Again, it says it would be cheaper for all residents to have garbage and recycling pickup. The solid waste management plan could be binding. So once again, it could grant me to sign a piece of paper and bring the service to the rest of the area. Union Bay and Fanny Bay is the only one that are unserviced, well, privately serviced. Royston is fully public, Craig Darragh. Hornby and Denman are both serviced, both with recycling depots and with on Denman they have garbage pickup. So these two communities really stand out. So, and give about 6 months to a year, and I'll come back. Or the CDRD will come back to the community again. And if it gets turned down again, like I think that's it. Like we'll never see the recycling of garbage. Lots of hands went up on this one.
Just a clarification.
Yes.
Craig Darragh is part of Union Bay.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you say these two communities,
Yeah.
but it's only part of a bigger community.
Correct. Yes, that's true. And I mean, officially, Craig Darragh, Union Bay. I mean, when I started, they had.
It's Union Bay.
Yeah.
Craig Darragh was built after Union Bay.
I understand that. Some Craig Darragh people feel a little bit Royston because of that garbage service, right? So I don't want to start anything here. I've had, when I started the regional district, they gave me a community that's called Happy Valley. Do you know where Happy Valley is? You do? No, yeah, it's like it's Fraser Road area. And I was like, that's a community. They had it on their website. And they also had Mud Bay. Like we had about 9 communities. And for me, when I talk about communities, I usually go, when I talk to people, I say I represent Royston, Union Bay, Fanny Bay. I don't mention Ships Point. And so I keep it to 5, but I know there's like different sense of the homes all along. And everyone's very unique, so thank you for raising that. That was a good question. Gentlemen with the copy.
Very simple question, I think. The specific address for the fire hall, and will it be connected to the sewer line or proceed without the sewer being completed?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So the question is, where is the fire hall? And the specific address, which I don't have. I might have the PID somewhere on my phone. Yeah, it's ballpark, so it's, Washer Road. So you cross the bridge here, and there's a street that goes like that, and then you have Beaufort. and there's a gap. So it's on the Beaufort side, just south of Beaufort. It's 2.5 acres. Again, everybody might correct me if I'm got the precise number wrong, but I think it's about a couple of acres. And sewer, yeah, of course it would get connected. Right now the plan, I believe, is to put in the septic if the sewer doesn't come, which I don't think. The fire hall planning is planning for a build that would finish around 2026, 2027, 2026 I'm hoping. And sewer could start around that time, so it will depend on timing. But of course, if sewage comes, the fire hall will be connected. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Could you just elaborate a little more on the school building
Yeah.
that should be demolished and the library that potentially?
Yeah. Sure, so a little bit more elaboration on the school property site. That's like the heart of Union Bay, that property, in my opinion. It's like walkable for most people here. It's like a beautiful area. But it's just limited with the Board of Education. And again, Union Bay tried to bring it for an office and a yard and a fire hall. And every time it failed because the province kept saying, no, this property has to be tied to education. Right? So about 4 years ago, I was in discussion, and I forget how the topic came up. I was on the library board, but they were talking about how Union Bay had the smallest library in the entire fleet. You know, from Saanich to Haida Y. And now I know that build for Union Bay is now third on the list of priority of 47 branches. Right, so we're coming around, and this would be, by the way, thank you, a bit more elaboration. If a library was built there, it would be at zero cost additional to your taxes.
Would that be after a vote?
Was that?
Would that be after a vote for a library?
No vote. It would be no additional cost because you're already paying into the overall library function. It's actually a big ticket on your tax bill, that one. Because we pay for, the valley is actually a bit lucky. We have about 6 or 7 libraries. Some places, like the Alberni Valley, if you're in Banfield, Tofino, you pay for a library, but the only library is in Port Alberni. Here we actually have a bit of a, so even though Denman often complains to me because they don't have a library, they pay for it, and it's hard to get into town. Hornby has a library. So so Union Bay is actually way up in the ranks for a replacement or a new branch. And so the thought is maybe the school could be demolished, maybe there could be a new public area with a small, it wouldn't be a huge library, but a appropriately sized library for the size.
More than 10 by 14.
No timeline, so this is just in the advocacy stage. Okay, next question. How are we doing for time and stuff? Are we at about 8 o'clock? Quarter two. I think my brain will give up before 8:30. One of you two. Then we'll go to the back. Just go ahead, Marilyn.
Hi, I'm speaking on behalf of the folks that live on Spence Road.
Yeah.
So as you know, or may know, that shipwrecking guy decided to take the berm down that separates
Yes.
our street from
Yeah.
the site.
Yeah.
He quoted that the soil was contaminated,
Yeah.
and that's why he took it away. I contacted the Cobalt Valley Regional District to find out what kind of separation that we could maybe have back, and they said that he's only even required to put up even a hedge. Nowhere else in Canada is a residential street established residential street beside a shipwrecking site, and we're wondering even your CAO said they're not required even to do anything, saying that it's an industrial marine bylaw. But shipwrecking isn't industrial marine, so they can't use that logic against for only allowing a hedge. So we're asking, because now that contamination is coming into our street, where small children live and play. So we're asking, what can you do, what can the CBRD do to protect our street from the contamination that's coming into our street?
Yeah. So I'll summarize just briefly. Marilyn was talking about how about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, the shipwrecking site, they took down a berm that was fairly high, right? Not quite the height of the ceiling.
30 feet high.
30 feet? Oh, that's good. that big. So it was separating the residences from there, and then they took it down. The berm that sending yet another email, because last week what I heard is that they are supposed to have some form of barrier. So this was in conversation with one staff, but let's try to get that confirmed, because if there are, and the person told me it doesn't define what the barrier is, but they're supposed to have one. So send me a follow-up and we'll press on that. The reality, as you know, is that our main tool to enforce something like that would be adding into the court the court process, you know. And so that's the sad thing, is we're unlikely to see resolution from our end quickly.
Well, what kind of contamination are you talking about?
So the Ministry of the Environment has done 18 months of studies of water sampling, 160 times over acutely toxic levels for copper has been proven. He says it's because it was a historical site.
I can pick up, because not everybody.
So he says it's because it's a historical site, but the Environmental Appeal Board of the province said it doesn't matter if it was a historical site or not, that the shipbreaking is contributing to the acutely toxic heavy metal contamination, and you are responsible. So now that heavy metal contamination is not only going into being sound, but it's coming into our streets.
So, and just to close the loop on that one, so Mary was just explaining the level of contamination at the site, and all I would add for people that I don't understand, the province is now threatening them with a up to 300 grand fine, I believe, for that contamination. So it's been demonstrated that there is contamination at the site. Let's move on from that one, because otherwise the evening will get really dark. Is that ship breaking?
Let's move on.
No, what's that?
Yeah, still ship breaking. Okay, let's keep going. Sewer. Oh, sewer. Okay. And by the way, yeah, we can talk more about ship breaking as need be, but.
So my question is this, so say we have a problem getting the funding because of the Union Bay Estates
Yes.
issue, and the sewers get pushed back. We have a lot of people here that, number one, don't have really effective
Yeah.
sewers
Yeah.
right now. So as far as I'm aware, under the bylaws, there's no maintenance to say you need to
Yeah.
enforce this. What are you guys gonna do in the 5 to 6 year gap? If I had
Yeah.
to put in a type 3 system,
Yeah.
when I renovated, you know the access type 2, I'm so pissed about that. But my point is, what about the people that have done
Yeah.
nothing, and what is the good working order mean? What's the remedy to force these people to at least have their stuff pumped out, whatever, in the next 5 to 6 years?
Okay, so the question is septic regulations, right? Written broad, if we don't have sewage, or until we get sewage, what can we do? The level of, there's been a couple of studies on that over the years, but based on the age of the systems and the expected life expectancy of the systems, I believe, maybe you recall, Ian, but I think it's 50 or 60% of systems are likely fail in the general area. I think that's some number like that. Do you recall? Not that
I don't recall the exact number. What I do recall is that there's a high percentage in Union Bay that the type and there is an unknown
Yeah.
septic system in a high percentage of properties.
Okay, so let's call it high percentage. So basically the problem is those properties their septic is failing. Some people are holding out for the sewage. Some people don't have the money. Sewage regulation is a provincial mandate. So there's only 1.5 regional districts in the province that have a septic regulation. The one that exists is in the Capital Regional District and covers certain areas that are unserviced by sewage. And the only thing that they can do is basically ask for an empty out every 4 years or something like that. They cannot themselves, the regional district can't enforce if your system is failing. Okay? So what we looked at, and that's quite finished, because we have a long study I can send you, what would a septic regulatory system for the Comox Valley look like for all the areas? And we started that work 3 years ago, and then it prioritized areas of risk. For example, in Morby, where people draw their well water at the same place as they have failed septic with high density of homes, there's a risk, right? Ships going. Like, in their case, they actually have good water, but everybody's like really tight. And so it identified all the problematic areas. What our staff came back with about 5 months ago, and if I can email me, I'll send you the full report, because it lays out option, and it's just not very strong. And the staff said, okay, well, if we try to actually enforce and say you have to replace, then we would take on the liability at the regional district. And we're not in a place where we would have to ask for a mandate from the ministry to do that. It was a governance nightmare, basically. So right now we're doing nothing. Long story short, currently we're sitting on that report. We are thinking of maybe bringing in, like forcing like the CRD is doing. Every 4 years you have to empty, but there's no slap on the wrist. There's nothing like that. So yeah, sorry, it's one of those issues that's not easily resolved. And yeah, but I can definitely, anyone interested, email me. I got like a 200-page report on this one. A new person, before I go to second, yeah, go ahead.
Is there an update for the coal hills?
Yes, great question.
That's not on the policy,
Yeah. So the question is about the coal hills, and I actually, 2 months ago, I asked our MLA Josie Osborne, like I said, what a great opportunity for you. You should do a video on it and tell people what's happening. Because people are wondering, right, what's happening with the coal hills. So the coal hills a number of years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago, has been identified as one of the 11 most toxic sites in BC, right? Which is not great. But so at the environmental, whatever they call these days, Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, so it's on their top list of sites to address. There's some history I missed, but it used to be part of the mill, whatever, the forest company that owned the area before the developer, and the liability transferred on and on until the province actually ended up purchasing the property for $1. And then in 2018, they announced that they had dedicated budgets at the time around, again, my numbers are not perfect, but they're approximate, about $25 million, like big amount to remediate the coal hills. Then COVID happened, nothing happened, the budget just sat there. And finally, without warning, like I learned at the same time as everybody else, they started mustering a number of months ago. And the project cost probably has gone up. I can't imagine that it hasn't. But what they're doing is they're essentially like putting riprap rock protection so that it doesn't erode into base sound. And then they're capping the entire thing with a membrane. And they won't let trees grow on that anymore, just because that could affect the membrane, right? So it's just going to sit. It'll be green, with vegetation, but they'll try to avoid the return of anything big, and then it will return to public use. So right now, what I've been told is, even though of course we're a rural community, people will keep going, but what I've been told is, don't go. Well, we're doing the works, and I haven't anyway, so I'm sure others have because it's a nice walk, but. We're not supposed to go, and then at the end of the project, it will reopen to the public for access. So that's it's not part of our park. No, that one, I believe it'll just stay with the province. That one with the CBRD has no. My word is there's no discussions for us to put it. It could be linked with trails and such if that's the question. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No idea. What is the projected end date of the project? Oh, actually, I can jog my memory. At the time, it was 2 years in 2018. But again, that they were going to spend on that. Is it? Oh, Ryan knows 2 years. So my memory didn't fail me from 6 years ago. And new before I someone hear some new voices. Go ahead. So the question is the advertising around Union Bay Estates, because for a while they were all over the Comox Valley airports. They had big signs around Richmond. That's the ownership hasn't changed in the last number of years. So I've got them to know the two principals. So Michael Ching he's done a lot of developments around Richmond, and Rita is his project manager. So it used to be Brian McMahon, but Brian McMahon is basically no longer officially part of the picture. So, they have some experience with larger development, but this is really big, this one. So their advertisement was to drum up an interest in anticipation of selling the lots. I don't believe that there's been, maybe those advertisements have continued, but I don't believe there's new effort. Because a lot of the lots that they're currently focused on, which are obviously where the road is, if subdivision happened, if we concluded the master development agreement revision with the switch, that would be the first place that they would build. And my understanding from them is this is essentially pre-sold. You know, there's enough interest that they don't need to. So the advertisement is kind of a long-term play, I would say, just to draw attention to that. There may be, you know, eventually 3,500 lots on Vancouver Island. So hopefully that clarifies a little bit. And if not, we can talk about it. And a couple more people. Oh, you haven't spoken yet? Yeah.
Just as far as the fire hall is concerned, does the new fire hall include the demand of all these new properties?
Does the fire hall which? Okay, no, not quite, no. So the fire hall currently, I think the fire department, so there's 4 bays planned. And I understand there's 4, well, there's 2 engines, and there's a search vehicle that Union Bay has. And then there's a trailer for, did I have that right, Ian? Thank you. So, you know, there's room for everything in each of the bays. There's also a training room. If the developments go, we are siding the fire hall so it's expandable. So if you look at Cumberland or whatever, like I believe there could be a couple bays down the road that could be added to the building. So it's not atypical in today's world to kind of pre-plan for that. But that question came up on Facebook, like is the 4 bays for the entire building? No, it's not. You know, so just to give you an idea, so Cumberland is essentially 6 bays. And their population is about 4,000, 4,500 or something like that. So Courtney is planning a new fire hall in East Courtney for the kind of Carlisle area. That one I think would have 7 or 8 bays or something. Yeah, that's what I heard. So no, it's sized to what we have plus a bit. You know. Yeah.
Just a quick follow-up question. And first of all, thank you very much for being here tonight and giving us an update. That's much appreciated, and hopefully we can see you next year again. So we are fairly new in Union Bay, so a lot of things that are going on here are just blowing our minds. When it comes to ship breaking and Union Bay estates that have been talked about for 20 years. 30. And street lights on where there is nobody possible to go to, right? Wasting energy, not wanting to start here on global warming, but why are we doing that? But my question for you is, when you're coming back next year, what do you think are the changes as far as shipbreaking, Union Bay Estates, and the fire hall?
Great. So the question is, when I come back, because now he's committed me to do it again, from November 6th next year, we'll pre-book the hall. I'm game for that, that sounds good. Yeah. And so where will be the fire hall? Union Bay Estates and shipbreaking. The fire hall in a year. Our fire chief is here, November, that's 2025?
Yep.
The day of my meeting will be shovel in the ground. If you guys don't vote it down at AAP. Okay. Yeah, Ian? Yeah, he says yeah. The fire chief says yeah. Okay, so maybe a year from now. The ship breaking, if if we haven't had our court date by then, like I may not show up. Like it'll be tomato time, not just at me, but at all the levels of government. At some point, like ridiculous is ridiculous. So I don't know what the court, where it will be. You go to court, you can win. Then I can tell you that even with a win, it's going to be a long process to address the issues on the site. I dealt with one issue like that in my term on Cumberland Road. It was, again, an egregious use of land against the zoning. And that issue went on for 9 years. And it was not as complex as ship breaking. And that's after court, right? So it's like, so what I'm saying is like, be patient. The big guns is the province and the feds, which is why we're going to continue to they're the people that, and I'm not pushing, I'm doing a bit of that. Yeah, I'm all out. I am pushing a bit the ball up, but at the same time, their level of resources compared to ours and their level of authority is so much higher. Like if you look at how the EPA deals with stuff in the US, we're always like think Canada does better. Even the spill that happened last week, like this is like you get people that work in the industry, like this is so far outside what should be happening there. And the province and the feds have a fiduciary duty to look after it. Gordon's has been pounding the table on that one. Josie's having a hard time. She's in cabinet, but she goes to talk to people all the time about it. So yeah, so that's a year from now. Hopefully we have at least a court result. And it'd be great to see the province and feds jump in. And the last one?
Development, the
Union Bay
estates.
Estates. I think I said it at the start. They have to find new investors, right? Or they have to settle with their current investors. And hopefully not everybody, because in Cumberland, you know the development around the airplane and stuff where the tourism center is?
Yeah.
The people just disappear, right? So developers will do that. At some point they give up, they run out of money, and then it's like 15 years can go by. So it'll be one of those scenarios. If I had any inkling which way it'll go, I'd tell you, but I don't. I just don't.
Thank you.
Okay, a new person, then we'll go to second question. Go ahead. And then. So, go ahead.
Thanks for coming. My question is on the self-sewer project.
Satsur.
So, I think initially the number was 27 grand for house,
Yeah.
what I remember.
Yeah.
And so you've got a developer that hasn't been able to come through for 30 years.
Yeah.
And now we're going to try to go forward with the self-sewer project. And my concern is, as a homeowner, like 27 grand could balloon to 50 or 60 or 70 grand because the developer backed out. They have no money.
I have your answer.
And the other thing I'm really concerned about it, and I'll use the word annoyed, but it's not strong enough. Well, the province is busy allowing ship breaking over here. They're on our case to clean up our sewer system. That goes into the same water. That
Okay, so I'll address the first part. The second part stood for itself. But the first part is the cost to homeowners to the sewage project if the developer was there. And maybe I wasn't clear enough, but I believe there's no project to Union Bay without a developer because I'll name the contribution. Jim, that was at a public meeting that we named the amount was named, was it? Or was it in camera, the developer contribution?
Yeah, no,
It was a public meeting.
15 million drops.
Yeah, a little higher than that, but yes, it's minimum $15 million contribution. The structure of the project for West Union Bay, it's about currently with 30% contingency, so that's like low class estimates. We put another 30% on that just for the uncertainty of you had 300 and you had 30% because you just don't. So that's the estimate we have. That top number for connecting everybody is about 65 million. Okay, we got a $30 million from the province. We've got Common Source Nation putting about 8 to 10, and we have the developer for 15 to 20. And the share of the resident is about 4 or 5. So now take away the 15 or 20 from the developer, and you can see that things fall apart really quickly. Right? So that's what I mean. So there's not a chance, in my opinion, that the number will change a lot for homeowners from what's been presented to you. Because if it changed, it would be so astronomical that the CVRD would just be stupid to come back to you and say, hey, do you want to pay like $15,000 a year to have a connection to sewage? Everybody will say, well, no. So hopefully that answers the question. The gentleman, sorry, I skipped you earlier.
Regarding the DNN corridor,
Yeah.
she was sitting in Calgary over during competition with the oil company.
Yeah.
Okay. Proposing that Quantum Industries in Squamish and Northside Energy out of Calgary are partnering up to produce hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
And they are proposing to ship it on a pipeline using the DNN corridor.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard anything about that?
No, I haven't. So the question is, apparently there's
Forget a bit more.
yeah, that's great. So there's an enterprise that wants to create hydrogen in Kill River and would like to run a pipe. So the ENN still serves some purposes. It is a utility corridor currently. So we do have like telecommunication that pays us. We have some water systems. We have some sewage systems. In fact, even for South Sewer, even though that was not the final alignment that's proposed, we would go along the highway right now. But for a while, we were looking at the ENN. Absolutely, there is room, so any developer that's interested in using the ENN Railway is like a $500 million on paper asset, and the annual budget for the organization is 500 grand. So it is strapped for cash. It welcomes any partnership that brings benefit to the members. So if you have links to those companies, I'm no longer on the board, but I can definitely connect.
Do we want a pipeline?
Well, that's a question. That's the next question. Yeah, thank you. There'll be public processes as well. So
It's so early in stages, it'll probably take 20 years anyway.
how's the energy level? We're starting to wind down. How about we do, what time is it? Anybody? 10 after 8. Wow, I'm supposed to have way more energy than this. It's still 20 minutes. Okay, let's keep going. If you're good, are you good to go another 20 or are you fading?
Sure.
Keep going? Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I want to echo back with the South Sewer because I moved to Union Bay 8 years ago. My property tax has doubled, and then when I started hearing all these projects, I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to live in my own home.
Yeah.
And I also have discovered that when they do the pipeline to connect to my house, that is also an extra cost on top. And I also learned that my property is on archaeological site, which now we're working with Comox Nation, and that is, we don't know what that means.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Some costs are, and those costs, so the question is there's additional costs that's where, first of all, I want to acknowledge what's a theme that I acknowledge as well for Union Bay North and the cost pressure. I won't lie to you, every municipality in local government in BC is going, in Canada, North America is going to cost pressure, but here is especially intense, right? And that's why for sewage, it's like, it has to be really good value proposition for homeowners. And your point was, for you, there's uncertain costs to go from the road to your house. You might be in the cultural heritage permit area. And so I want to recognize that by some homeowners, there'll be not a lot of additional costs. And for others, it could be significant. So again, our role is to try to keep the cost down overall. But yeah, we're going to have more open houses on that one over the next year, so bring more questions. You already had one. Any other first time? There we go.
Union Bank State something.
Thank you for coming, guys. Yeah.
Union Bank State helping everything develop interesting in the large tracts of land behind Garden Road, even up in the crowd, with gravel roads in. Any updates?
Okay, so the question is what's happening behind Garvin Road, and that is actually not Union Bay Estates. There's been a new road that's been punched through, and it actually connects. So this is an older family. I've met a gentleman, he's a British Columbian, and his family's been in British Columbia. So that's a private developer, not Union Bay Estate. It's a smaller company so they're cutting a subdivision through Garden Road, but they also have potential plans higher up to connect to the street at the top again, like right across the road, which leads to Forestry. Green Street. Right, so a few years ago they brought forward a plan for, I think maybe 100 lots that they wanted to cut. But water issues for now, they realize that with everything in the estate and the CBRD, I think they've peeled back from that plan and focus on the lower road for now. They may come back and try for more. I think that property, I think it has a zoning for it. So, gentleman over here, then over here.
So I've been here since '91.
Yeah.
Wellwood.
Thank you. Yeah.
So why did the person up on Green get to go ahead just like that? I don't know how many years it's been for the development on that one.
Yeah.
But it took 31 years of bureaucracy for these guys to get this one.
Yeah. Good question. So why is it that development behind Garvin went like that? And why is it that the Union Bay Estates, which used to be called Kensington Estate and so on, really easy answer on that one. Garvin, it's already zoned for what they're doing, right? So what the homes they're putting in, they already had a right under our bylaws to subdivide into the amount of lots they're going. If they wanted to do more lots, they would have to do a public process, etc. Kensington, they started with just land. And then they said, we want to put 3,500 homes, which is the largest development north of here. They had a choice. A lot of developers, they choose to do these days a phase development, so you negotiate a chunk, and then you go to the next chunk. And with the regional district, they entered into a master development agreement, which means that everything has to be figured out for the full, like, essentially, for the project to go ahead. There can still be like phases, like they're going to work in this phase, but overall, for example, sewage requirements, all these different things were negotiated at the start. It was a front end deal, and it's been really hard to achieve. Add to that the lack of services, right? So yes, we have Langley Lake, but it's a small lake. A lot of studies had to be done. A lot of stuff had to be the plant. Like there was a lot of precondition that had to be met for the development to proceed. And a couple times, I know local government, like Glenn is here, like, like a lot of people have said, Dan, you guys need to move faster at the regional district. Regional district are not used to developments in general. Usually it's the municipalities doing it, so yes, we're a little bit slow. But second, the developer themselves, it's not like it's been 30 years of constant effort. There's also a couple times where they walked away for a few years, right? So, yeah. New person, I'm only looking for a new person. Oh, yes, sorry, then we'll go. Sorry.
Across from the Argyle Road walk-ins and trails, I noticed that, is there a development going in there?
At Argyle?
Across from Argyle.
On 19A across from Arbour.
Okay. Is that the two homes you're talking about, or just right across from Argyle?
Just across from Craig.
Yeah, so you're on Union Bay Estates property pretty quick. And then you start to be, as Ian says, you also start to be close to the Comox Treaty lands, which we haven't talked a lot about. The Comox Treaty lands is like massive. It would go essentially from the Trent River and kind of pie shape all the way to almost McLeod, like just on the other side of our creek. It's a huge amount of land, and the treaty process in the final stages. They may go to ratification this winter with their community and then with the government. So it's getting closer. I am not aware of the activity you're talking about. I'm not aware of building or roads being punched in on Argyle, but if there are, actually probably on the way home I'll stop at that.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. No. So the question is, have we seen drawings for what the final product for Coal Hills? They may have it, I haven't seen it. I have to say the division that's looking after it, when I talked to them in 2018, like they were asking for, like, not secrecy because they're government, but they were not giving a lot of information. So, but if you want, send me an email asking for that, and I'm happy to forward it to Josie and see if we can get it.
Josie.
If the treaty goes through, what does it mean for Union Bay and those lands?
Yes. If the treaty goes through, what does it mean for Union Bay? That's a really good question. Definitely, these lands are like a huge focus as part of the treaty. It's where Comox First Nation envisioned the future of their community outside of where they are. Like this would be a main hub. It's a lot of land. The lands would not fall under regional district bylaws. So they are essentially recognized as not traditional territory, but formal territory of the nation. And they would be able to develop them in the way that they wish. Okay, so if they wanted to do commercial, industrial, or just residential, there would be, I imagine, collaboration with local government, but it's not necessary. A little bit like you see at IR1, like their reserve at Comox Bay. We are not involved. Like they have their own official community plan for that land, and they have their own parcels that they manage. So it would be very much like that. This said, it's a lot of, in my view, I've asked our planning staff, like, let's start those discussions now between community estates, the existing community, and that to see how do we end up with a flowing overall synergy, but it's not mandatory, right?
How much
Isn't
land are
there-
we talking about?
Isn't there more land between Green and Fort or Third and over that way? There's a whole strip of treaty land.
Yeah, so great point. They already have land in the area, and that one is called DL7. So it's where you get 7th Street, 6th Street, 5th Street, 4th Street, and at the end, that forest patch. So that abuts to existing First Nation land. They can proceed with development when they want with that. They already own that. It's not part of the treaty package.
How much of our private land is going into that, or is it?
Is there private land going into the
Our
treaty?
private land being included into the First Nations treaty?
There isn't private land.
No private land?
No private lands are going in the treaty package, and that's almost like by, like that's higher than just this region. Across BC, it's very rare that you see private parcel as part of the treaty process. The province and the feds tend to really favor crown land for obvious reasons.
How much land are we talking about, Daniel?
How much land is the land back there?
Yeah.
My geographer. The number I have in mind for the treaty, we should pull it up if somebody has their phone. From memory again, I think it's about 1,400 hectares. Right? So that's how many acres? Somebody just translated that?
Well, it's probably around 2,800 plus.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of that. So what, and I would say like, what that means if everything went ahead, you can imagine that Union Bay in 150 years from now starts to look like Comox, you know, in terms of scale of development.
But we're surrounded by treaty land, aren't we? Union Bay is basically surrounded.
On this side, yeah, on that side, not on the south side. The south side, like as you go towards Mystery Beach, there isn't all the land is from here north. Yeah.
On the treaty land, I was under the impression that there was going to be sewer that's supplied to them. Is that so?
Yeah, so that's how you remember when I said it's a $65 million project. Comox First Nation through the federal government are committing $8 to $10 million to the project, and that's to help bring the switch pipes so they are serviced as well. And we have another agreement that predates me, which is getting implemented now. They're also getting water from Comox Lake. We're switching over Royston from Cumberland water to Comox Lake right now, and then that line will go extend to the Comox Treaty land. So as part of the valley, this is a fascinating story. Actually, Bruce Jolliffe, who used to be the director, was heavily involved with that one. At the time, the valley needed to build a new treatment plant for the entire valley, for Comox mostly, and that turned out to be a $120 million project. But they got it because First Nation became a partner in the application for the funds. But in exchange, KFN, they asked, Comox First Nation, they asked, can we get some water for treaty land, which is a beautiful deal. So so basically now the sewer goes, Comox would be looking at service area, and their chief, the past chief in Colorado, and current chief Kent Price, they always say, you know, without service, it's like you're giving us a new car without an engine. That's what they say to the province. So for them, you know, they're very committed to trying to make these projects happen.
And you know, I was just looking at on the federal site, and it says the total treaty lands, which are more than just the area in Union Bay, is 3,460 hectares.
Hectares, the total land, yeah.
Yeah, and that translates to 8,550 acres.
Yes, sure. And so the bulk of that, it's too bad it doesn't give the breakdown for the areas, but one other area that's really bizarre, sorry, I shouldn't say things like that. It's the reconciliation, so I'm kind of offside here, but a lot of their land is in Sayward, right? So a lot of the treaty lands is way up there because they have strong heritage and lineage back in that area, which is kind of unique. Mary, we'll go to second time speaker, then we're on closing side of things.
I'm horrified that Michael Ching is now replacing Brian McMahon. You may as well have Bernie Madoff.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. Just a comment of concern about the current developer, and we can talk
Look it up.
I'll just go around. Okay, this time I'll do a scan, so you ask me, we're going to go like a wave.
Maybe one more challenging question.
Yes.
Considering the housing crisis we are in, and considering that we may have a government change very soon, or hopefully soon, what do you foresee as far as building permits and the faster growth of the development here is coming? You wanted a challenge. You said yes.
Housing question. How do we build faster, not just in the Comox Valley, but everywhere? God. How do we solve the, oh God. Can we save that one for November 6th next year? Like, I can tell you, we have gotten grants to accelerate our processes. Everybody's getting that. And the province has actually injected themselves into official community plans. You see that mostly in cities where they say, we're going to force you, if you have a single residential lot, it can now have 4 homes on it. So it's super dynamic. But I will talk more about that one next year.
Okay.
We're doing the wave. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all our shit goes to Comox,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, if the sewer goes,
Yeah, and how does Comox hold all that?
Okay, yeah, great question. Thank you. That great question. Yeah. So the question is, if all the flows go from here to Comox, so the site at Ladzo is currently at about 1/3 of the capacity potential for the plant, for the treatment plant. Right, so with the site area, right now they already have a plan to double in about 30 years from now, based on projected growth, but they could even triple from there on that site with the treatment plant. So there's a lot of room for growth. The only thing is that the treatment currently is, I think, secondary treatment. Secondary treatment, and so it goes into the deep water in the ocean in the Georgia Strait. There's a lot of discussion at that really boring table, the liquid waste management table, around what we should do around the treatment plant long term, because you could introduce microplastic filters, you could introduce tertiary level of treatment. But to your question, there is room for flows lots of now. Keep going. We'll catch Jim, then we'll go there.
Yeah, a couple of quick questions. Somebody mentioned the burn, was a contaminated burn that was removed. You know where the dirt went?
Yeah, they just placed it another on site somewhere else.
On the coal hills.
Surely there must be some power and bylaws to prevent people from doing that on their properties. I think if I tried to do that on my property, I would have all bylaws.
For contaminated soil, absolutely.
But the other quick question is, has the regional district planning aspect learned anything from this big development to, why rezone for that many places when there's no water, no sewer, not enough hydro? I hope there's still much to learn there somewhere.
In this day and age, that development would not get that far without those. So the question is, how is it that the development got approved for rezoning without a service plan? That's a great question. Today, I can tell you, it just simply would not happen, with planning, but at the time it did. There was public hearing. The community was super divisive. I wasn't here, but I've read the minutes. And, it ended up being passed by the board of the regional district. I don't think it would pass today without a services plan. Absolutely not. But we've inherited it. And,
Or was it Van Wesley?
With the active transportation funding available in the fed, what I understand is substantial. Any chance you could short track that? With the Comox First Nation, at least in your territory, from a Courtney down to there?
Question about active transportation. Thank you for bringing that up. Two things on that one. One is we've just changed the bylaws of our transit service to capture active transportation, so that as a valley we start thinking more holistically about how people move around. So that's coming up in the next, we've had the whole, but before it becomes a real thing, like give it a few months. And second, for money specific to our area, it's taken a couple of years, but I have my first active transportation funds from the province for a project in Royston. We're going to improve safety, bikeability, around the school and eventually all the way to the beach for the children. And in our plans, the next area that we would look at is actually right here at downtown Union Bay. We have a strategy for the region for active transportation that has about 40 prioritized items. We work with the Cycling Coalition, different organization. And in our area, Royston was number one, and then the next one would be this, and then try to improve over time. The thing about the funding from the province, it's 150 million per year for the whole, all the regional districts, very small. So, you know, like the Royston project, I think we got 300 grand, and it's like a 500,000, we're putting 200 grand, but you know, there's not huge amounts yet, so we'll keep advocating for that. Thank you for the question. We're finishing? Yep.
Quick, you got quick housing. You can live in a motorhome for 3 months, you can buy land. Then you can live in a motorhome for a year when you get a permit. So I bought land and I lived in my motorhome for 3 months. It took me 2.5 years I've been homeless.
Yeah.
And now I got my permit.
Yeah.
So does that mean I can live 7 more months in the motorhome?
Okay, great question. And that one ties to the housing, because housing is the biggest thing right now. But yeah, I didn't even put it on the list. So the question was about RV living and the weird rules that exist in British Columbia around that, which mostly tries to dissuade people from living in RVs. So that's, you and I will work on that together. You're going to, just a sec, because I'll tell you what we'll do. The Nanaimo district last month just lifted the time that you can live in an RV across the regional district of Nanaimo. They're the first to do it. So now people can live in recognition of the deep housing crisis that we have. I've been thinking about it since they've done it to see if we could do something like that. So what we'll do, send me an email, and then what I'll do is I'll situate that with staff and I'll start a conversation for us to look at the RV policy, because the housing crisis is just like so deep right now that I think things that seem unacceptable 20 years ago, they've become a reality anyways.
Well,
People are already in them, right? So
I see being picky, but I have a sewer. I can see using the sewer, but I am hooked up. Right?
yeah. That's what the Nanaimo's doing. They're putting some criteria, and then great question. Okay, any burning one before we close out? One burning one. Last one.
Driving in the city, notice there's a number of concrete pads at the bus stops.
Yeah.
Is that for open air?
I
embarrassed for the office chairs, the lawn chairs.
Great question. So what is happening with our pathetic state of our bus stops in I got some great news tonight, actually. So I love transit. So one of the things that happened a few years ago, we put a really nice one at the Fanning Bay Hall, and then there's a little pot of fund that exists at the province for bus stops. And who's the lady? We were just talking tonight about that. Just raise your hand. We were talking about bus stops. Anyways, a few months ago, we heard that for this region, the funds have been unallocated. So I raised my hand and I said, I want some bus stops. And apparently we're going to get 2 or 3. So save the lawn chairs and save the chairs, and maybe they'll be on the cover and then